Hey, would you open us with a word of prayer, please?
Shall we pray? Our gracious God, Heavenly Father, we come to thy throne of grace in this evening now. We thank you for the blessings of the day. We thank you, Lord, and as we look outside and see the change of seasons and the beautiful colors in the leaves, and we're thankful that you're in control of those things. We ask for blessings now tonight upon our nation, but also upon our world, as there is much hate. We see wars and rumors of wars being produced around the world, and we pray, Lord, that people may see in their hearts that hate must go away, that these wars may be stopped, because the innocents are always seen to be in the middle of everything. We pray for our nation, O Lord, as we must make decisions too on sides to take and how to try to get in between these conflicts and to solve them. We pray for our president and all of our Congress, O Lord, and give them discernment and wisdom how to do those things. Be with our own state, continue to bless it, and our leaders and our government here too. Right down to this own township body that we are here tonight. Give us the wisdom, discernment that we seek. We also bring before Leslie's family today, one of our workers who's lost the battle to cancer. We're thankful, Lord, that she is a believer, and we pray that you may be with her family as they mourn her too. May you comfort and give them all she stands, all her family stands in need of in this time of mourning. Bless our employees, be with our first responders, be with our firemen, our policemen, our DPW, even those in the office. May you give them all safety, may you give them all health and strength. We're thankful for them. Continue to bless them, guide and protect them in all that they do and say for our township. Be us now on this night. Give us all that we stand in need of too, and give us traveling mercies on the way we're home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. And in the absence of our clerk tonight, I'll call roll here, with the exception of our clerk, so we have a quorum. Item 5, approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
So move.
Support. And supported. Any comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The agenda is approved. Item 6, communication letters and reports received for the board members' information. Item 7 then, we're going to look to our member of the public who's here tonight and offer her the opportunity to speak at this time if you wish, and if not, we'll defer and go on. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Item 8 then, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So move.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Comments, questions? All right, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the consent agenda is approved. Item 9, both 9 and 10 are in a similar vein here. Item 9 is the sidewalk waiver request that was made for 2026 Port Sheldon by Fusion Properties. Is there a motion?
Motion to deny the sidewalk waivers requested and to require property to install sidewalks adjacent to paving street along Port Sheldon as per the approved site plan in ST 2303 as recommended by Utilities Committee.
Support. All right, thank you. Conversation among the board then. Comments, questions? I don't see that we have anyone here from Fusion tonight, I'm guessing, but unless you're affiliated in any way, all right. So, seeing no one here from Fusion among the board and utilities and others, any comments, questions? I know these can be sometimes debatable points, but...
It's a very busy section of road.
Yeah.
Thought for safety that it should be installed.
Yeah. That corner and extending, right? It's right there at Chicago Drive, Port Sheldon. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's sidewalk on the other side of the street, though.
There is. Yeah.
And that's
By the way, there's sidewalk on that side if you keep going up Port Sheldon toward the Horizon Gymnastics or whatever is over there.
Oh, in the other direction, but not the. This is that tight corner, correct? Once you cross over Chicago Drive.
Yes.
Tight corner.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then it'll end there and connect to nothing.
It will, but there's another property beyond that is going to be coming development soon too. And so the reasoning is that, and that's become the planning, is that they will come for a waiver then also. So I think it'd be advantageous to put the sidewalk on this piece and then hopefully continue with the next piece that goes to maybe kind of to the east.
So if the next property develops and they put in sidewalk, then it'll dead end there. What's the distance from there to the next sidewalk?
Be the condos in one house, 2 houses, and a condo. And I don't know what that other property has been purchased, and I don't know what their plan is there. I don't know.
And I can picture, I go by there a lot, so the condos in the house are 2, and then it's 14th, which is...
Oh, no, it's 18th. It's 18th. There's the house on the corner of 18th and Port Shell, and then there's like a little piece of the condos. There's a dead-end drive there from Green Meadow. And then there's another house back there that has just a small driveway. And they've purchased more property there, and I don't know what their intent is. So,
So it looks like it's going to be quite a ways of the frontage. 18
Amy,
acres.
you looked like earlier you were going to say something, or did I read you
No,
wrong?
I mean, I read it all in beforehand, and it sounds like the Utilities Committee, wanted the sidewalks to happen. So I'm good.
And actually, the condos don't even have sidewalks, if I'm correct.
pardon?
The condos don't even have sidewalks on 18th?
No.
They got a
on
waiver.
18th? No. They don't have any on Port Shell. They don't have any. They don't.
And I'm a consistency kind of person, and I know the staff report referenced the property on what was it? Was it Chicago Drive? The car sales company that got a waiver. And John, you voted yes for that waiver, and that was in 2020. So, and Becky did as well, and Jason Minier did. So I'm just wondering, consistency-wise, it's all over the place. Is there reasoning? I'm trying to figure out where we're at, because I have a real problem with sidewalks to nowhere. Waterford is a perfect example. They were forced to put in sidewalks. You can't even see them. They're so overgrown because they connect to nothing. Nobody uses it. The other issue is people start seeing that sidewalk if they're crossing over Chicago Drive, and they're like, oh, here we go. And they follow it, and now they're 500 foot in on the sidewalk and a dead end. So then what are they going to do? Most people, the smart thing would be turn around, go back and use the sidewalk on the other side. But a lot of people will say, I'm just going to cross over. There's not cars coming. So I think it creates more of a safety hazard than it does provide safety. I would be in support of the waiver, and I think we've talked about it in the past where once it gets developed enough that they will have to put it in, but to create a sidewalk to nowhere, I think creates a safety hazard.
The rebuttal to that line of argument, I guess, from those of you on utilities, we've certainly talked about this both in utilities as well as in the full board. Not always easy to tell where things are migrating and what is indeed a sidewalk to nowhere and what is the first connection point in something that is beginning to happen.
The ordinance says they have to put sidewalks in.
Right.
Correct.
The ordinance. It came for a waiver.
Right.
And we denied the waiver. We're not making them do anything. This is the ordinance that we have. So we're looking at it and going, this comes from Chicago Drive up to that piece. We know there's another piece coming. I don't know. We just as a committee decided we weren't going to grant the waiver. So that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing no other comments, my only comment is that we have, again, faced this from time to time, and I think we have been pretty judicious in trying to not require them where it would make no sense at all. And the question is when we have required them, sometimes we've gotten pushback, other times not. But I think personally, I can speak, I haven't had a regret for those situations where it seemed compelling. This is one of those that is on the cusp of becoming more useful sooner than certainly some that we've granted waivers on. And those we've granted waivers on, we haven't granted it indefinitely. But it's more a matter of sort of seeing what the future brings and future growth is. Maybe, to Michael's point, maybe what he's really saying is we ought to be perhaps aggressive about installing sidewalks continuing to the east, as you're suggesting, and considering whether or not to require more property owners along that way to install. That's one way to defeat a sidewalk potentially to nowhere, is if we don't leave it going nowhere, right? So that's something to ask yourself in terms of your political will. Is that something that, in this instance, in that location, you would see pushing further? Because we always tell people when we give them a waiver, we say this isn't indefinite, right? And it's not going to be pleasant the day that we have to come back, because as Gary, you point out, right now, we're just simply following the ordinance, right? At that point, it's going to feel like we're reversing course on people, but it is what it is, right? In other words, it's justifiable. I'm going to vote for this. I see where you're headed. I hope that we will be strategic in looking at how to connect this toward the east, maybe sooner than later. I know we've got the widening along 14th, and all the way from 14th to here. Perhaps we could see happen in the not too distant future. And if that's what you're thinking, and it does continue, as I say, on that side of the street across Chicago Drive, albeit
And we did widen 18th last year, too.
What's that?
We did widen 18th also last year.
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
And put a bike path somewhat on each side, which was better than what it was.
Yeah.
And you said there's probably going to be more development coming there, too?
Pardon?
You said there's probably going to be more development right in that area, too?
The next piece to the east has been kind of planning for commercial development, too.
Is that the one that looks sort of prepped right now and has been worked on in recent months, the next piece?
Yes, yes.
Like getting ready for something.
Yeah, they've always taken care of that piece. They've always mowed that piece of property, but so.
It's a different owner than Fusion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess my question would be is once they put in their sidewalk, are you going to require the condos to put in sidewalk now? Because I think you were on the board when you gave them that waiver to not put them in because they're widened 18th. I believe it was on utilities. Let's look at the minutes.
No, I was the guy that got sidewalks put on Hudson Drive, and they got away with it because nobody forced it. There's supposed to be sidewalks all the way down 16th around the lake. They came with just better lawyers. We decided not to fight it, but the condos got out of it. I was not on the board. The board didn't follow. The previous board did not follow through what they told us they were going to do when we decided to do Edson. They said they were going to do sidewalks on 18th, and they left us hanging. We ended up putting them in, and they did not. So we were deceived. We were told by putting the sidewalks in, we were going to finish the loop, and the loop didn't get finished. So my street was deceived.
The condos said that their road would operate as the...
Doesn't make any difference. That's not what we were told. We were told there were going to be sidewalks on 18th. And we were told sidewalks were going to go down 16th, too. And then after it was all said and done, we spent tons of money, they spent no money, and it didn't get done. So you have to understand, there's a little bitterness on my street because it still gets brought up once in a while. It's like, how come we ended up doing this and nobody else this is what we told was going to happen and we did this, we should have got a better lawyer. It's like, yeah, I know. I tell you this, guys, but that's what happened. We were deceived.
It was part of your drive to run, wasn't it? I mean,
it was, because I think it was unfair how that was handled, because we were told that we had to be the team player, and that sidewalks were going to go down 16th and around the lake. That was what we were told. And sidewalks were going to go in the condos, and it was going to go to 44th. We were told that was going to happen. After everything got started, those two pieces fell off, and we ended up doing it. And we all spent a lot of money. Not just sidewalks, sewer, everything. So when you look back, we were deceived because the board said they were going to do these things and they did not follow through. That's what happened.
There's been a lack of vision when it comes to sidewalks that I've been bringing up for how many years now? 10 years? There's never a vision. It's always like a little here, a little there. We're going to deny waivers here, but then once in election time in 2020, then it's like, we're going to grant these waivers because election's coming up in just a few months.
I'll say for your part, Michael, that you brought it up often, but you've never really offered a strategy or a solution.
But this situation here, they came for a waiver, and nobody really came. They just submitted a waiver. Nobody was even at the meeting. So this is part of commercial property. So.
You know, sidewalks have brought us two of our better board members over the years. Not just yourself, but Chad Tuttle, going back years ago. I think the sidewalk in front of Waterford led to his running. So
yeah.
I don't know if this will bring us a third excellent board member, but not meaning to provoke in that fashion.
I think also Waterford was being questioned about their tax status, and that was a factor. But I don't think it was just the sidewalk.
Sure.
But
true enough. All right. Any other discussion?
My one thought is the sidewalks were in the approved site plan. The sidewalks are in the ordinance. If somebody was here, like, lobbying for it, making a case for it, I could maybe be swayed, but the vibe that I get from this is like, oh, let's just, kind of throw it against the wall and see what sticks, right? Like, we'll put in the sidewalk waiver, maybe they'll approve it. That'd be cool and save us some money. Maybe they won't. But it seems to me like they don't feel strongly enough about it to come to the meeting, or to, reach out to us. And so I think that if it was part of the approved site plan and it's part of the ordinances, and if the recommendation came out of utilities, I respect my colleagues and the work that they're doing on the committee meetings, and so I am in favor of denying this sidewalk waiver request.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to call for a vote. It's going to be just a simple voice vote. So all in favor, say aye.
I'll do
Aye.
roll call.
Excuse me?
I'd like a roll call.
We can take a roll call. Amy?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Michael?
I'm sorry, this is what was the motion?
Motion was to
deny the sidewalk waiver request.
Be a no.
Okay. And I'm a yes.
Yes.
John?
yes.
All right, so it passes 5-1. Item 10, sidewalk waiver request for 3405 Bauer condos. Again, similar situation, albeit different, right?
So moved.
Different setting.
Support.
Moved and supported. Comments, questions, arguments?
I'll just say this, exact same points as before.
Excuse me?
I would just make the same points as before.
Okay.
Basically the same thing. I do have a question though. Did the corner parcel, and I should probably look it up on Ottawa GIS mapping, over by DeWitt's, were they granted it? Did they apply for a sidewalk waiver?
So you're asking us to reach back in our historical memory?
I can't remember back that far. I wasn't here. I don't know. And I have those
I
files on
may have
external
done
hard drive.
That wasn't that long ago.
I said, Michael, I can't recall.
We have who does the history? Is that Kevin? We should have had a fourth person here and had Kevin just situations like this. Why not? It's only money. Yeah, I believe they were given a sidewalk waiver there. So that's another one of those. Sometimes we'll give them, sometimes we don't. And this applicant actually did show up to the utilities committee meeting, and when he left, he didn't seem happy, which is understandable.
They were talking about sidewalks on one side of the street and not the other
Right.
side of the street. I personally didn't think it was logical.
Yeah.
And also affected people just taking their kids for a walk. I didn't think it was practical at all. And
The drawing that they showed to had a problem with because the way they did it, there was a fair amount of residents that were going to have no sidewalks, either side of the road, because of the way it's put together. And so I couldn't give them a waiver just because of the fact that they were leaving a lot of residences with a sidewalk on either side of the road, especially in the entryway.
It didn't look that way to me, Gary, but at the same time, aligning with what John said, as one not on the utilities committee, I looked at it and said, are the grandkids of the people on the side that don't have sidewalks entitled to safety for their grandchildren taking a bike ride or whatever in front of the house? To me, it's a dangerous precedent too. When you look at subdivisions, this is akin to that. When you look and say, well, we expect subdivisions to place sidewalks, around the full cul-de-sac or the various roads within a subdivision, it would be a bad precedent, quite honestly. I can see why you guys denied that.
What was the date on the Somerset? Phase 3 got a sidewalk waiver. They just have a sidewalk on one side. Dan used to.
What's that?
Dan used to.
Okay.
Yeah, that was not too long ago. They got a waiver for that.
I don't know, 2017.
But I'm not sure where you're referring to.
2017. The Somerset Villas.
Yeah, because it's a tough one. I get it with safety and sidewalks. What always just astounds me is in our neighborhood, all the subdivisions around it, everybody has sidewalks. But I see people walking with their kids, moms pushing strollers in the road, and I'm like, there's a sidewalk 10 foot away, but they don't use it, which I want to stop and ask them, but it seems kind of creeperish when they pull up and like, excuse me. I don't know why. So I kind of look at a neighborhood like that as it's not connected to anything, and if they want to just have it on one side.
It's a new development, and I mentioned to him I was shocked he was asking for a waiver. I couldn't hardly believe it. A new development, and you're building a home for someone, you're not putting a sidewalk to save money. And saying, well, you can use the one across the street.
Did they make an argument when you made that point?
They said that there was a development that was in Georgetown that did not have it on both sides.
And it's
I
our
said I wouldn't
ordinance.
have voted for it.
Other than, hey, they don't have it, did they say anything about a rebuttal of your points about whether it be safety?
I felt he was choosing his words and realizing that he was asking something that was kind of out there. I was surprised that we're even asking. It's a new development, and you're asking us not to put sidewalks in. That's what happens when you start giving waivers, and pretty soon you line people up, and, well, what about mine? What about my street? Now we got a new development, and they're asking us. So you're putting in a lot for someone, and by the way, I can save you a little bit because we want to put a sidewalk in here. You got to be kidding. And the next people that come, they go, how come I have a sidewalk in front of my house?
I gotta admit, this was an easier call as a, again, non-utility member looking at it and studying what you guys did. This is an easier call than the last one. That was a little more debatable, but this seems pretty clear.
I thought so.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I think to Michael's point of people walking in the street even when there is sidewalks, I think I can speak as a mom who often takes her kids for walks. Mine aren't in strollers anymore, but I often worry about walking on the sidewalks with my kids because sometimes people's dogs get so close to the sidewalks. And I would rather walk in the road and push myself into the grass when a car is coming than walk on a sidewalk where I know that there are dogs that I don't feel safe. You know what I mean? Walking my kids through that property. So I think that lots of people have lots of reasons why they do or don't use sidewalks, and we all have different circumstances. You know, some of us live in neighborhoods that do have sidewalks, some of us live in neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks, and so our opinions vary, but I think that that's the beauty of having 7 people or 6 tonight, weed through some of these things. But I agree with you, Jim, that this one feels a little bit easier than the last one. But I think that our ordinance says new developments need sidewalks, and so we hold them to that. Yep.
Said their piece, all right. You want roll call again?
Yeah. And I would just
Start this way, John?
A yes vote would be to deny the waiver. Yes for me too.
Yes. No.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, passes 5-1. Moving on to item 11, then the rate study recommendation. Long time discussed. Coming out of utilities, there a motion to approve increase as proposed in our agenda this evening.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported, okay. Discussion, we've got, by the way, Joel here tonight. We have obviously utilities members that have, at least two of them, that have dealt with this for a while. And I sat in on one of those discussions when I was part of filling in, but we welcome any insight that goes beyond what we see here and have read prior to the meeting. And those of you who are involved with that decision, or Joel, as you've come tonight, anything else that you wish to add to our consideration?
Could Joel start us out? If you'd like to.
He was like, whoa.
Joel loves public. Well, I've got a question for him.
Or not, I will put you in the hot seat.
Yeah.
I think Joel, because Amy has a question for you, it'd be good to come up anyway. Yep.
Really was reading through it and wondered what the biggest differences are between scenarios 2 and 3. Because a lot of it looks very similar.
Yeah.
Other than taking out the DPW building, but that has no effect on the rate study results.
Okay.
So the cash flows and the cash balance differences do not make a significant difference whether the DPW building's in or out on their findings for recommendations. So if you take the DPW building out, you will have a positive effect short-term on the cash balances, but that does nothing for cash flows, and we need long-term cash flows to sock away for the big projects. So if you look at scenario 2 to 3,
Yes.
the only difference is DPW in, out. It has no effect on the rate study results
Okay.
recommended by Baker Tilly.
Okay.
It's almost like magic.
Well, he answered the question for you.
There's no magic, Mike.
Just free.
Just numbers.
Free.
It's just numbers.
What was it? Estimate 3.8 million?
3.9 or less, yes.
Joel, why do we need this rate increase?
Well, for the last 7 years, we haven't raised our rates at all, and yet our costs have kept on going up from sewer and water that we purchase and give to Granville Sewer Treatment Plant. It's been going up about 3% a year each one, so that's, for 7 years, that's 21% right there.
So we've been absorbing those costs.
We've been
Try to
absorbing
keep,
those costs.
try to keep them low.
And then we're trying to plan for the future, replacement, upgrades, and that costs a lot of money.
So we buy our water, and it's
Buy
going
our
up
water
about...
from Wyoming.
From Wyoming.
It's been going up regularly at 3% a year. Our sewer goes to Granville. That's been going up regularly at 3% a year for the last 7 years, and we have yet to raise our rates.
Okay.
So you're saying it's time to raise our rates?
Yes.
and
What was
infrastructure.
our net position increase last year for water and sewer enterprise fund?
Our net, say that again?
You mean, do we
Our
run
net
a
position increase, what was the surplus last year?
I do not.
2.5?
I thought it was 1.2.
2-ish, I think,
2
million.
Historically, it's been around
And that's-
2 million every
And
year.
that's all in the study. All those dollars are in the study.
And this, what, did we get a final percentage on this one? Because I know there was a talk of it's 35% increase, 35 to 37. What is the percent?
It's 37.
You should have that right in front of you, but study,
37 on water, 35 on sewer.
37, 35.
So they're indicating a dramatic increase
Yes.
coming shortly.
We pulled the graph.
And that they've been making major changes to their systems and expansion. And we're looking at the possibility of this going as high as 45%.
For Wyoming, you're talking about?
I believe so.
Yes. So, yeah, they have to start installing that 60-inch transmission main. And that's going to be happening within the next couple of years. And so they're gonna be raising the rates also.
So Pat supplies this graph to us that you see up on the screen from the Ottawa County. You'll notice that the red is Georgetown Township and our water line. Our water's been pretty much flat since 2017. You see how the different townships have all raised their water to continuously. Or they've been more money than us in the first place, and they'd be flat, but they've always got more money for it.
And we had talked,
That's on a monthly bill.
Yeah.
and we had talked back in 2017 about, okay, let's keep up with inflation. Let's increase it 2 or 3% per year, so we don't end up down the road all of a sudden having to jump it way up.
Have to jump way up.
But we are giving those people have gotten a break as we've been trying to absorb it.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe we voted on that back then, is to do small incremental increases every year. I could have sworn.
I know we've been a lot of
I know
recollection.
we talked about it with Dan. Is it better to rip off the Band-Aid every 5 years, or to? I believe we all agreed it was everything goes up. Your electric goes up. Your gas goes up. Everything goes up. Your insurance goes up. So why would we not stay on that path? But this was never a red flag issue for Dan, which I'm curious, what is Dan's input on this study?
No input.
Because there was a reason he didn't. I mean, he was a
That's why we
conservative financial genius.
a third-party firm to do this, an objective, independent study.
Well, and I guess that was my fear too. When there was this first talk of doing a study, I'm like, well, are we going to tell them what we want it to raise and then they make it happen? Because to me, it feels like a scapegoat for hey, we had no choice. It's a third party came up with this rate.
To me or someone else, Mike?
I'll handle
Point
that
of
one.
order, you're not a board member.
I'll handle that one because, Michael, you've taken whatever side is opposing on anything of this nature over the years. In other words, if we hadn't done a study, you'd say, oh, we're just going to pick 37% because it just sounds like a good number. Don't you think we should have done a study? Don't you think we should have some evidence in front of us? We have a study done. We spend considerable amount of money with an entity that gains nothing by their recommendation. They're going to be paid whatever they come back with. They come back with only what would burnish their reputation as knowing what they're doing and what they're advising. They came back with an extensive study and analysis. They came and spent an entire meeting with us practically and explained that analysis. And I look and say, as one involved in township government, it seems about as quintessential an exercise of governance as almost anything we do. Paving roads, planning for the future with water, sewer, voting. These are one of the things that you can't do as a private entity. You can't do as an individual. This is truly the role for government. And our role is to look not just for next year, who might vote for us in the next election, but who will be living here 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And the study was, objectively, you guys are going to, if you put this off, it's going to get worse and you're going to dump on future taxpayers. You've got to begin to bite into this. You can't subsidize your residents when it comes to water and sewer. You've got to begin to raise this, and they're recommending that we raise it in this fashion. Now, when you're as low as we've been, it's easier to have a higher percentage. 37% sounds like a lot, and it is, but it sounds like more than it otherwise would be if we had been, as you might perceive it, overcharging our customers for years, as some of the local townships and cities around us may have done. I think we've been undercharging, quite honestly, and we are now being told by the experts, you've got to catch up. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be thinking longer than next election cycle. You've got to be thinking about 20 to 30 years out. So to me, this is essentially what we're on this board to do, is this very kind of action. And I think it's unfortunate because I think it is something for which, and I'm glad, I guess there's the cameras up there if this should be replayed as part of an election cycle. This is one of the decisions that's hard to make, but at the same time is easy. In other words, when you have the experts who can verify with the data, you need to do this to be prudent and fiscally responsible. Then you do it, even if you hand someone else potentially the ability to go out and door to door and say, I'm not the guy who raised your water sewer rate 37%. And then if you improperly try to tie in a DPW building that may be voted on and may either be voted up or voted down, I don't know which, but to then potentially deceptively tie that to this increase I think I want to make clear on the record tonight, as has been pointed out and as we've been presented, it's not some future possible building that hasn't yet been approved that's affecting the analysis and the decision tonight.
Sure.
This decision needs to be made of its own accord, separate and apart from that. And so, should anyone in this board try to tie those issues together in the future, that is a deception and that is misleading. And I think it's further imprudent to not take the step needed here to prepare our township not just for the next 5 or 10 years, but for the next 20, 30, 40 years. It just has to happen.
And we're limited on growth too. There's only so big, what is 75,000 is a cap for Georgetown.
I hope we don't reach that, but yeah.
Right. So, and here's my thinking is, I know, and I'm never a fan of the sky is falling, but if we don't do this, we're going to have odd, even watering days. Well, here's the thing. We raise the rates 35%. Guess what? People are cutting back and the water usage is going to drop. So we won't have a supply issue. Looking at the graphs, what our future growth is. So that'd be my simple solution is common sense would say, well, you increase it 37%. I know I personally am not going to be watering my lawn every other day. I'll probably go maybe twice a week. And then if a lot of people do that, there's not that demand on the water, which is interesting too, because the more water we consume, the cheaper the water rate is. So, and Dan always stressed that is, the more water you buy, the cheaper it is. So
I'm gonna add more to this because Pat was at our last meeting, utilities meeting, and Wyoming is going to build a new water line from Lake Michigan. It's a 3-foot line, isn't it? 3 foot? 5 foot?
60 inch.
60 inch, so it's 5-foot line. So when they initially got bids for the first phase, it was $37 million. Eagle has added to what they need to do, plus the cost, so now it's $80 million. More than likely, they're going to have to bond that thing. So if they bond it, you know what your interest rates are right now. If they bond that thing, let's say they bond it at 6-7%, they're going to pass those costs on to us because we buy our water from Wyoming. This is not the last increase. I hate to say it, everybody, but Pat was very adamant about the fact that water's going to go up. Another thing that's going to happen is Granville Sewage Treatment Plant, DEQ, Eagle, is going to continue to make updates to those plants because they have more and more requirements. Now the sewage treatment plant has enough capacity, I think it's at a 2045, 2050, which is good, but there's still money that's got to be spent there, and that cost will be passed on to us. It's got to. So this isn't going to be the last rate increase you're going to see because those costs are coming down the line. We are going to start paying for the inflationary things that are going on, and government agencies are making Wyoming do things that they didn't have to do maybe 5 years ago. So Pat was very what was his last name, Rob? He's a very wise guy. Sorry, I do Dutch names. I have Rob to be able to explain us, right?
Polish name.
But Pat was very knowledgeable in these stuff because he covers the whole county, so he touched all the townships. And it was very interesting listening to him talk. And he's passionate and he's smart. Yeah. So Joe, if I missed something, you let me know. But
I did have a meeting with Pat in Wyoming last week.
Oh.
And Mike brought up a good point. One of the points is what if you had odd even, or the rates will bring down the people sprinkling, but with Wyoming's experience and Pat's experience, people don't stop watering. They keep on using the water. They pay them all.
Okay. Well, and I think that there is a blessing in there that, like, water and sewer, if we raise these rates, people do have the option to water less to save money. Like, that can be a decision that each family is making, each property owner is making based on their unique circumstances. That if we raise rates and they say we can't do that, then they're going to find ways to cut their water usage, then so be it, right? Everybody has to make the best choice for them. I just think that we have to make sure we're keeping enough money in the bank that, yes, I hear you, Gary, that this probably isn't our last one, and that would have been my guess as well. But I think that there's things that you're willing to mess with, and then there's things like water and sewer that you want to have the money on hand so that if something catastrophically goes wrong, you can fix it with some haste because these are key pieces of the health, safety, and welfare of our community. I don't know. I think that it's lovely if this gets raised and people start watering less to save the difference for their family. Yay, I love that people can make those choices to meet their own circumstances.
I want to be careful, Becky, for your sake. You use the words lovely and yay. I don't think any of us relishes seeing costs go up for ourselves and our fellow residents. It's a necessary evil, if you will, or necessary cost.
But it's not a situation where we're raising it and then forcing them to maintain the same usage.
True.
We're not saying, you've always built out this many units, and so we're going to hold you to that many units. What I think is lovely is that, if we raise them, yes, that stinks. None of us want to charge our residents more, but it is something that each family can still have a way to financially, work it out. They might have to make some concessions in a different way. Michael said that he'd maybe go down to only watering once or twice a week. Yay. And I don't say that yay that we're raising rates. That isn't it. But yay that while we're raising rates, it is on something that people have control of their own usage over. Maybe people stop filling their swimming pools all the time. Maybe people stop running their sprinklers every day because that's what their family needs to do and that's how they're prioritizing. And I think that that's good. So many times as a governmental body, we have to make decisions about how much we're going to charge people, and then they're just stuck with it. And they don't have any wiggle room. They don't have any outs. And this does give them some wiggle room because it's based on usage. I don't know. We buy our water, we buy our sewer. We're at their mercy. Mm-hmm. They've been raising their prices, and we've absorbed it. Politically, the smart thing to do is to sit on the survey and wait a year. But the right thing to do is, and this Pat was passionate, is to bite the bullet and do the tough thing and approve this 35%. I think it's the best thing for our township. Is it like political suicide to do this type of thing? Same thing with requiring sewers, same thing with requiring sidewalks? Yes. Those people frequently don't get reelected. This would be one of those issues that make it very difficult to get reelected next year if it's used against you.
So, everything's going up. It's just like food.
I know.
You buy hot dogs instead of steaks.
I'm voting for this. I think we have to do it. I think it's responsible. I think it needs to be emphasized that we've tried to eat those increases for years. Yes, we didn't raise it as time went by. It would have made it a little bit easier for us. The general public has gotten a break. But now we've had a study done. They told us what happens to communities that don't raise their rates and how it starts to go down dramatically because our system is aging. We've built a new system. We're getting to that point now where things are starting to break. We have a small staff that runs everything. When it comes to our sewer system, my biggest fear is that we're going to have an outage and our lift pumps aren't going to get serviced fast enough as they run those generators around, and we're going to have it backing up in people's homes. So the more money we can, I think this is something that we should do, needs to be done. And I think we need to give Joel and his people much more support. I don't know how you do this all with so few people. I don't. And then you've got 6 locations where you keep all of your equipment, and we're arguing about whether or not we're going to build you a facility. You've needed a facility for years. We've been lucky. And it's time to bite the bullet. This needs to be done. It's not going to make us popular.
2 things, John, I appreciate that. one, the mention there towards the end of your comments in terms of the DPW building, not on the table tonight.
I know.
It's not tied to this need. I know you know that. I just want to make that clear. Second, I think I'd give our voters more credit from the standpoint that if you are elected by me to serve as, the township, and you don't make the difficult decisions to plan for the future, but you act expediently, I have a bigger problem, and I hope that more of our voters would have a bigger problem with expediency and playing to the public versus looking long-term and doing the responsible thing.
I agree with you, Jim, when we had the advanced newspaper, because the facts got out there, but now they don't. And when someone knocks on your door and gives another side, people they don't know the facts. I'm real happy with what we're doing right now as far as getting that newsletter out. I think that's an incredible positive, and it's been well received by the public. But our people are not informed about what a wonderful community they live in and how well things are being run.
Speaking of that newsletter, I think this is a topic that may well fit well within a future edition thereof, because it's the kind of thing that if I were out there, I'd want to know more.
We need to have that graph in that newsletter. People, they just don't know.
I think that we need to, the first bill that goes out with this raised rate, there should be some sort of a letter kind of explaining historically what's been going on, potentially with this graph, to help people understand, because otherwise it's the rumor mill or the door knocking political season mill or the social media rumor mill and not the real facts. But
Becky, do I hear you volunteering to reduce a 50-page study down to 5 paragraphs?
I would love to work on that. Sincerely love to work
Notes
on
on a 15-page study?
Yeah, right.
The 40-page study. Is there a list of what are our next top 10? We're at 1/3 life for our infrastructure. What are our next top 10, not 48 water supply, but where's our trouble coming? What's our old pipe? Because I know Cottonwood was a surprise. I forget. Do you remember how much that cost when we replaced the water? What was it? $500,000?
I do not.
Well, we had it torn up. We figured, why not?
You extend that sanitary force main so up to capacity further upstream.
Yep. And then we did the water when we were there because we figured it might get disrupted. And now's the time. It still had probably 20 years, but better safe than sorry. Those unexpected things are what concern me. And that's why if we have did Baker Tilly provide a top 10, top 20, okay, this pipe sees X amount of volume, you're going to plan on doing this in 5 years.
They were provided a capital improvement plan from my office.
Oh, we have a list?
Wow.
Oh, I've been asking for, is it new?
Everything that was sent to Baker Tilly was sent to you.
Because I've been asking for a top 20 list for, I'm not sure, a year.
Next 10
Top
years,
10.
costs associated with it. It's all right there. Proximity, you have it all.
I'll have to check.
Appreciate that.
Because that was something I'm concerned about, is if we got pipes, this doesn't even include the expansion that Wyoming wants to do for another, water main coming down. What is our percentage buy-in with the water treatment plant? I know same with the sewer expansion, we bought into that, so it's not like we're at the mercy, we are part owners of it. What is our percentage?
Yeah, so out of county as a whole, somewhere like 40, I want to say 43%, I think it is. Again, Mike, that's off the top of my head, so it's in the 40s.
It seems like that last water plant expansion, we dropped like $6 million? I'm going from memory. Do you remember? We put a good chunk in that.
Yeah, it's just under 6, I think, between 5 and 6.
So I guess my question would be, so they're expanding it. What is the purpose of them adding the 5-foot water? Is it redundancy? When I talked to Pat after the meeting, I was curious, are we having issues where we can't pull from that one intake?
42 inch, there's been fracturing in that pipe. And the demand throughout the whole system, always into Kent County, is they can't meet the demand. They're kind of delaying it because of the cost associated with it. And now Eagle's saying you can't delay it anymore. You start moving. So we're all going to be fighting the bullet. The communities that we'll just take City of Hudsonville, they were complaining about we don't have to expand, but they have to pay their share too.
Right, and as far as serving this, so they have Wyoming, Grand Rapids will be using that the 5-foot line? So just
Wyoming,
Kentwood,
Barton Gaines, Caledonia, Granville, Georgetown, Hudsonville, Town Township, Zeeland Township, a little bit of Park.
and how is that going to be divvied up based on the number of water customers? Is what each township or city
Well,
or
we all
village?
bought in a certain amount. Again, forgive me, but this is off the top of my head, Michael. I didn't think I was going to get these questions, but I think Georgetown is right around 22 million gallons per day or something like that as of right now.
Oh, I was talking about that buy-in.
Our max day was 18.8 this year so far.
So 75 million is the estimated cost for this 5-foot line going in?
Well,
First phase.
to the 96, 98 corridor, first phase. That's only one phase.
It's one phase.
We'll do another phase from that approximate location to about 48. And then the final phase will be all into Wyoming.
They give a rough estimate for the total
Oh,
project cost?
go ahead.
300 million.
Still working on easement.
And I was curious, so Pat works for the road commission? What is his relationship? So Wyoming has the plant, they own the plant, and we have part buy-in to that. How does the road commission fit into this? It's because it goes on the road?
The whole community is involved, so they're like mediator, they sell the bonds for all of us.
Oh, the county's got all kinds of money.
Well, this was excellent and pretty much impromptu on your part, but we're awful lucky to have you.
Thank you for all you do.
Other questions before we let them sit down? All right. Other comments among the board before we call for a vote? Okay, hearing none, I can do this also voice vote.
Yeah.
Start to the left here with Amy.
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Michael?
No?
Supervisor votes yes. Becky?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don? All right. 7-1. All right. Item 12, board resolution in opposition of proposed renewable energy bills. As you know, we've discussed this at the last two meetings, first brought up by Gary. The last two meetings. You saw my email related to who is heading up that particular committee that's considering that bill. I've not received any reply from the chair or the vice chair of the committee to what I've written to them, and I know that Gary, you'd suggested that the board consider a resolution, and in fact, one has been provided to us as a model from MTA. From what I understand, and Gary, maybe you know better, or others may, it's been pretty well uniform in opposition in terms of townships and cities, and I don't think necessarily really split along political lines as much as maybe geographic, in the sense that if you've got wide open spaces, you're probably more opposed than if you have a well-built, already covered city where you're not going to have a whatever type of a project, a windmill farm, et cetera. You're probably either ambivalent or for. I heard that one of the Democrats on the committee from the UP was wavering, and I can see why that might be. I imagine that person has a district in which it's pretty open, right? And
That's what I heard too.
Yeah. So it really is. It seems more about geography than maybe necessarily even party. But nevertheless, we kind of fit both. I mean, we have some wide open spaces and yet we're fairly developed. But we stand, I think, if you agree with this, I'm not going to presume on any of you, but I think we stand not just on our own behalf, but on behalf of other townships and cities, that we just feel principally that on principle, that this is a little bit of a power grab. So, be that as it may, resolutions obviously can be accepted, ignored, or otherwise, but we are a large township. I think 7th or 8th largest in the state. I hope that is worth noting by that committee and others. Any comments people have about the resolution you've been provided?
This resolution is basically a boilerplate that MTA has put out, excuse me, that most of the townships have adopted, that send in resolutions. And nobody is against, that I read through the forums, that they're not against renewable energy. What they're against is the taking away of the power from local governments. And although we have zoning in our township, this would pretty much negate that. And my other concern is that this sets a precedent that they could take a lot of zoning away from a lot of things. If they just decide that, you know, I think of Big Rapids, if you're going to build a battery plant up there and you're going to finance with the Chinese, you say, oh, it's renewable energy. We're just going to take over this section of land and we're going to build it.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that they use us to further things. I think it's important for us to say, no, we have zoning laws and we're good with that. We don't really need the state to step in. And the other problem is that the state is going to turn us over to the Michigan Public Service Commission, which is appointed people by the governor. It's not elected officials. So she could appoint any governor could appoint people to a public service commission that could override a lot of things. So they're not elected officials, they're appointed people, which is, again, I think, a very dangerous precedent being set.
I agree.
I appreciate Gary bringing this up a few weeks ago. I'm finally seeing the news is starting to report on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you. And I think the comment you made about setting a precedent, this takes away so much power from local people.
So we should tag on short-term rental and mining.
Yeah.
We can add a whole lot of things to this resolution that the state should not be trying to control.
Do we need a motion to adopt this resolution?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution as presented.
Support.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's passed, and this resolution will be forwarded to the committee in charge of that bill. All right. Item 13, second public comment period. Anyone wish to address the board at this time? All right, seeing none, close that public comment period. Item 14, discussion, general information. Anything that any board member would like to bring up this evening for discussion or just for our information?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've seen a park survey being distributed around. Is that something that we approved, or is that just something the services committee put out, or how did that work?
Part of our Parks Master Plan project. As part of the project for, Rob's going to correct me when I say this wrong, but as part of our project related to Parks Master Plan, one of the pieces of that is having a survey done.
Okay.
And that's required.
Done already?
So it's the company.
Circulated?
It's been out
It's been out for a while.
for a month.
And this didn't go to the board?
Yes.
Has there been a deadline set for
No,
comments?
board approved the survey. Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Don't have it memorized. But, Justin, will you explain the premise for it? It wasn't just because.
No, it's a DNR requirement for us.
In order,
The commission has requirements of items that have to be outlaid, and one of those is a component.
in order for us to apply for grants.
So was it like a
Grant.
Survey Monkey, like 50 questions, or what was it? I have no idea what
No,
it
it
was.
wasn't that long.
20 questions?
I didn't think it was that many.
20 or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
It
just
so
curious.
long ago.
I seen it pop up someplace. I was like, I just was curious where it
Is
came
there a
from.
deadline by which people are supposed to submit replies, or?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh, okay, so it's
So
completed.
it was website, it was leaflets, it was a library, it was
Yeah.
Facebook.
Advertising.
And right now it's being compiled.
Because we have to get it before the end of the year so that we can apply for grants for next year.
As soon as it's compiled, we'll see.
The questions were created by this survey company? With input from services? Or just they came up with questions?
No. They did it.
It was very basic questions.
Yeah.
So we put it in their hands to do the survey because it's required, and then you do with it what you want, but it checks the box for us to qualify for DNR grants.
Mm-hmm.
And the deadline is when? They have everything in?
February 1st,
All right.
2024.
So we haven't seen the final results yet.
The board will get the results, though?
Yeah.
All the board members?
Okay.
Okay.
Other points of discussion, anyone? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support. Favor say aye.
Aye.
And meeting adjourned.